There's a car on the way to the... Yeah. More devotees are coming.
Yeah.
Yeah, one car is coming. And then some are coming with both.
Vaishnavi, can you pick a verse that we read today?
Was it to pick a verse?
Find a verse from the Bhagavatam. Pick a Bhagavatam. Find it for us.
And Vanca Kalpa, she says. Is that from Bhagavatam?
That's the verse you want to do? We could do that verse.
Can you say it?
Vanca Kalpa. Alright, let's just talk about that verse. That's okay. Vanca Kalpa Turubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyaivacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. So, Vaishnavi has suggested we discuss this verse. And Vanca Kalpa, Turubhyascha, it means that a devotee is like a desire tree. A desire tree, if you just think of what you want, you get it. Of course, you can ask for it, but just think of it, you get it. That's a desire tree. So in the spiritual world, whatever you want, you get. And of course, everyone in the spiritual world is pure. So whatever they want is only for Krishna. If whatever you want is not for Krishna, it would be chaos, like this world. It's chaos, because we want so many things other than Krishna. You could imagine you're in a world where what everybody wishes happens. It would be complete insanity, right? But then you imagine the spiritual world, and in the spiritual world, whatever you wish happens, and there's total harmony because your only wish is for Krishna. Interesting, right? In this world, if whatever you wish happens, it would be total hell, which it kind of already is. Because we can make some of what we wish happen. But imagine a world in which everything you wish happens. So, but, Ye prasade purve sarva asha. In the Si Guru Charane Rati Aise Uttamagati Ye Prasade Purve Sarvasha. The lotus feet of the spiritual master, Si Guru Charane Rati. Attachment to the lotus Aise Uttamagati is the ultimate goal of life. Ye Prasade Purve, by His mercy, Purve Sarva, all your desires, Asha, fulfilled. Same thing. So what does that mean? Vaishnavi. Vaishnavi. She's a Vaishnavi. Are you a Vaishnavi or a Vaishnavi?
Kamalagopi.
Kamalagopi. Did I call you Vaishnavi?
Yeah.
Yeah, Kamalagopi. Yeah. Okay. No, I think there's another girl in Vaishnavi. I got mixed up. So, now, you look at this verse and say, well, by the mercy of the Guru, all my desires are fulfilled. Then you might think, well, that could be dangerous. If all my desires are, who knows where I would be right now. Maybe, I have good desires and some desires aren't so good. And if all my desires are fulfilled, that could cause some trouble, right? Yeah. I mean, what if at this moment every one of your desires was fulfilled? Would that cause you any trouble?
Yes.
Some would be good and some would be troublesome, right? Yes? Yes, we all agree?
Definitely.
Anybody not agree? Okay. So then, you look at this verse and it says, by the mercy of the Guru, all my desires will be fulfilled. What does that mean? Well, the assumption is that all your desires that you would approach the Guru with would be pure. And so those desires that you need to become Krishna conscious, like being more controlled, being more dedicated and so forth, they would be fulfilled by the mercy of the Guru. And what does that mean? It means that there are a lot of desires we have that we cannot fulfill because we don't have the strength. And they can only be fulfilled, only be achieved by Guru's mercy. So there's a limit to what we can do with our own strength, right? And then beyond that limit, by the mercy of the Guru, you get power. Like we were saying last night, like I was telling you last night, how when we met Prabhupada, we were so inspired, we were able to do things. Back at now, I can't even do it now, but I did it then. So, by that mercy, we did things we thought were like totally impossible for us. So, we have so many desires. I think all of us fundamentally have this desire to be pure devotees, which is basically impossible. But we won't give up that desire because it's such a beautiful desire. Right? We don't have this desire, I want to be a pure devotee. And you look at yourself and you think, I'm a long, long way from home. You could write a song. There's a song called Long, Long Way. Well, we can write a song. I'm a long, long way from being a pure devotee. And we have this crazy desire in our head to be pure devotees. It's like, are you kidding me? You're a pure devotee? Come on. How is that possible? But we have faith in mercy. Yeah, it's not possible for me, but I understand by mercy I can do it. Ye prasade purve sarva asha. By the mercy of Guru. All these crazy desires, like I want to be a pure devotee. I want to be compassionate like Prahlad Maharaj. I want to be free from envy. That's a big step, right? Free from envy. I want to be willing to take suffering of other living entities and suffer for them, like Prahlad Maharaj. Wow. What kind of crazy desires do we have? Right? I want to sacrifice my life. I'm only 20 years old. I want to become celibate. I want to sacrifice my life. Are you crazy? What's wrong? Your parents are like, what's wrong with you? You're young, you can enjoy. Right? And we're saying, yes, I want to do this. And we know it's impossible. At the same time, Ye prasade purve sarva, by the mercy of Guru, it's like, okay, we're going to do it. Isn't it? It's like these two contradictory things are going on. Part of our mind says impossible, and our heart says possible by Guru's mercy. Look how far I've come already. I've already come beyond the threshold of what's possible, isn't it? I'm a devotee. I got up this morning and chanted Hare Krishna another day. I didn't wake up and just do what I used to do before I was a devotee. So, Vanca Kalpa. So the pure devotee, they're like desire trees. Because by their mercy, we can fulfill desires that we couldn't possibly fulfill on our own. It's not amazing? Beautiful. Right? Kripa Sindhu Vyevacha. So, Kripa means mercy. Sindhu means ocean. The Eva means certainly, and Cha means also. So it's an extension of their desire trees and their oceans of mercy. In Ocean of Mercy, you could say that the pure devotees will tolerate us. Or ocean of mercy, ocean of compassion. So, like the disciple comes with so many faults, and the disciples, inevitably, they do something wrong, they fall short. But the spiritual master is unlimitedly mercy. He's always encouraging and correcting and never rejecting. You know, it's amazing. On two occasions, sannyasis got married and they came later to see Prabhupada. They just did this on their own. They, or they got married and the marriage didn't work and they were so embarrassed. No, what's happening? One sannyasi got married and then there was some problem and he went away. And then he came back and Prabhupada said, okay, now you're back. Let's take up where you left off with your service. It was like he made this big mistake and Prabhupada was really willing to reinstate him. Oh, you want to do service? Okay. Another sannyasi got married, same thing. Okay, what service you want to do now? It was like the past, it was like didn't exist. It was like, so that's the ocean of mercy. It's like, the thing I saw with Prabhupada, and this is important for us, we were talking about this, Radhika's listening, we were talking about this yesterday in the car. I said, I think when Prabhupada first came to America, he was expecting us to be a certain way, more based on his experience in India. But he found us to be different than the devotees in India. And he found us to be more sincere and more fallen simultaneously. Like both things in the same body. Like the Western devotees, very sincere. I just want to be Krishna conscious. I just want to be, and then, 10 minutes later outside smoking a cigarette. Oh, Prabhupada, I'm so sorry, I'm so fallen, I'm so weak. I just want to be a pure devotee. Chastise me, bless me. And then, chanting and crying, I'm so fallen. And then a week later doing something stupid. So this is what Prabhupada was seeing. And I'm sure this is what you see in your own life, isn't it? And we see with other devotees. Devotees, it was just in Lithuania, we were giving a class, and one devotee was saying that, I feel so bad that I have to eat and I have to sleep. I just would like to serve Krishna 24 hours a day. I mean, what kind of sincerity is that? That's like amazing, right? I wish I didn't have to eat or sleep. I could just serve. So sincere. But I can't do that. And sometimes I get deviated. So Prabhupada seeing this incredible degree of sincerity and this incredible degree of degradation in the same body. And Prabhupada noted the sincerity and said that sincerity is what is going to make this person successful. The fallen condition is temporary. The sincerity will override that. And so Prabhupada was so tolerant with us. As long as he saw the sincerity, he was always there, continually instructing, because we were trying. So that's the ocean of mercy, or at least that's one aspect of the ocean of mercy, that if a disciple is sincere, if a disciple is trying, spiritual master's mercy is always there. He'll always instruct, even if you make a mistake. All right, get back up. Let's rectify it. Go forward. Another example of the ocean of mercy, we saw, there's a story I've told many times, but I'll tell these two stories because you may not have heard them, and I'll make them very brief, but they show how merciful Prabhupada is. This one man was coming to the temple when I was first coming to the temple. He was a little older than me, maybe like 6, 7 years older. He was probably 26 or 27, I was 19. 26, if you're 19, 26, 27, it's kind of old. So to me, he was an older guy, and he would come to the temple like I was coming. We would hang around with the devotees, we would talk, do some service. And he was actually wearing a brahmachari dhoti coming to the temple. And one day he came in a sari. It was kind of like, whoa. And he was talking with a high voice like a woman. And then the next day or a few days later, he came back in a dhoti. So what's going on? How do we deal with this person? So the movement is very young. And even today, it's like, what do I do? How do I deal with this person? Well, I tell them, what bathroom do they use? Do they stay in the brahmachari ashram? It's like, do I tell them to go home? Do I tell them, don't chant Hare Krishna? join another movement, we don't want to. What do we do? And Prabhupada, in his mercy, this Kripa Sindhu, he wrote this person, he said, just decide if you want to be a man or a woman. But don't keep changing. It's not good. Just make a decision and do it. Wow. No judgment at all. Interesting, isn't it? Then another time, a devotee who had joined in San Francisco, he had taken a lot of LSD, so it took him all day to chant. He was damaged. Or sometimes if you take a lot of LSD, it takes a while to come back to normal. And it took him all day to chant. He couldn't do any service. There was no time. He couldn't go in Harinam. He couldn't. And they asked Prabhupada what to do, and Prabhupada said, just let him stay in the... That's all you do. So that's an example of Kripa Sindhu, or not refusing anyone the opportunity to engage in devotional service. You know that story, this drunk, Prabhupada was saying, and he was talking about devotional service, anyone can do devotional service, and the drunk came into the temple, 26 Second Avenue, and Prabhupada's sitting here, and to Prabhupada's right, there's a bathroom. Maybe right where that wall is, maybe 8 feet to his right and a little behind. And this drunk comes in with toilet paper, walks in the middle of the lecture, stumbles in, disheveled, puts some toilet paper in the bathroom and leaves. And Prabhupada said, see, anybody could do devotional service. Prabhupada was appreciating it. So he didn't tell the person, no, stay away. And many people who came to Krishna consciousness were pretty disheveled and like this other devotee couldn't chant, a bit spaced out, or very spaced out. And Prabhupada was willing to accept them. That's an ocean of mercy. Otherwise, in Vedic times, you could not become a disciple. You could not accept a guru unless you were in a very, very elevated state. You had to be Brahminical. You had to be sattvic. Then the guru would accept you. And the guru wouldn't even talk to you if you weren't a disciple, if you weren't initiated. Okay, all of those are not my disciples. You must leave. Only those who are surrendered I will talk. Of course, we're all disciples of Prabhupada, but Guru would only speak to disciples. And, we have the story of Jagai and Madhai. So they set the bar for being fallen. And so once them, then every Guru, his bar is like, there's no one he won't accept. As long as they want, and that was the criteria. As long as you want to be Krishna conscious, it doesn't matter what you've done, it doesn't matter who you are, we'll accept you. That's the ocean of mercy. We were joking, we're going to do a little skit. I think this would go viral. So it shows Jesus, right? He's walking towards a church, and just when he gets in the door, he changes and he's wearing a suit, and he has short hair. He just looks like anybody else. And then the pastor's speaking, but the pastor's speaking some things that are commonly understood in fundamental Christianity. And right in the middle of the sermon, this guy, who's Jesus, nobody knows it, raises it. No, that's not right. That's not what Jesus said. Jesus said this in the excuse me, sir, I'm the pastor here. Please be quiet. I'm the authority. And he goes on. And he raises his hand. No, that's not what Jesus said. He said this. You're saying that's wrong. And this goes on. And it creates such a ruckus. And said, sorry, sir, we'll have to remove you. You're not allowed in our church. We'll have to remove you from our church. In other words, Jesus is not allowed in the Christian church. Which is... I'm sure it would happen in real life. We could do a social experiment and do that, But Mahaprabhu accepted Jagai and Madhai, but they were sincere. They wanted to repent. So that's the criterion. And then the Guru will accept anyone. And as long as they're sincere, he'll continue to instruct them. And we saw that with Prabhupada. There was, we have not seen Prabhupada reject any disciples except a few. And the only reason they rejected him is because Prabhupada was instructing them and they kept arguing with him. They didn't accept his instruction. So they kept arguing. Prabhupada said, I said this. And they said, but. No, but I say this. But. But I say this. But. And then Prabhupada got frustrated because they weren't listening. And he said, then do whatever you want. Because I can't instruct you. Which meant that they were rejected. But they rejected themselves. You know. Ultimately, the Guru never rejects a disciple. The disciple rejects himself by not following the Guru. So if the Guru can't instruct a disciple, then how is that disciple the disciple? What could be done? But if the disciple comes back, I'm sorry, I disobeyed you, I want to obey you, immediately accept. Mercy never ends. Now Prabhupada said something interesting and scary. Do I have your permission to scare you?
Yes.
And Prabhupada will, if we commit offense to a Vaishnava or to the Guru, will you forgive us? And Prabhupada said, yes. He said, but Krishna won't. So you have to be very careful about offending devotees. The devotee may forgive you, but Krishna is offended. So okay, you're offended, you forgive, so the person is forgiven, but Krishna was hurt by you offending that devotee. Yes?
Does that mean in this lifetime then, that Krishna, or will he forgive you in the next lifetime?
Well, Prabhupada said something also. It's kind of the resolution of this. Prabhupada said, we have no right to ask Krishna to accept us. Like we've turned against him, and so in that sense, we have the right to ask. He said, but to my Guru Maharaj, by his mercy, Krishna will accept me. So we can say, by Prabhupada's mercy, by mercy of Guru, Krishna will forgive us. But it's a philosophical point that when you offend a Vaishnava, then you're offending Krishna. So even though how do you know Krishna forgave you, even though the Vaishnava forgave you? Because Krishna was hurt when you were offended. So that's another example of a Vaishnava's Kripa Sindhu. He's ocean of mercy. You can offend him, he forgives you. But if you don't follow him, he can't help you. So that he might so-called reject you, but actually you rejected yourself. Right? So he might say, okay, do what you want, what can I do? So it's a rejection which you fully deserve because you created it. But he didn't really reject you. Right? Yeah. Make sense? Yeah. Kripa Sindhu Vyavacha, Patitanam. Patita means fallen, and Patita means of the fallen. Patitanam Pavanebhyo. He's the purifier or the friend. Patitanam Pavanebhyo. He's the friend of the fallen. So, I want to be Krishna conscious. I cannot do it without Guru, and I cannot do it without Vaishnava. I can't do it on my own. It's impossible. Valuable are the devotees. Without the devotees, we can't do it. Impossible. Never. Could never do it on our own. So, the devotees, they are the purifiers for the three worlds. Without the devotees, who are we going to talk to? Who are we going to talk to about Krishna without the devotees? And then you see a devotee doing devotional service, you get inspired. I just see people engaged in material activity, I get inspired for that. That's just normal, right? Whoever you associate with. You're like a monkey. See, monkey do. We just do what we see. Isn't it? And you see a devotee surrendered, engaged in devotional service, nicely engaged in devotional service, and give everyone a nice view of the clouds. Perfect view of the grace there. We see a devotee engaged in devotional service, and we get so inspired, isn't it? Or we even just hearing about their service, we get inspired. You know, oh, we're going to have this festival, everyone's coming, I want to go. Right? So there are purifiers. And I was saying last night how sometimes, occasionally someone who met Prabhupada for the first time on the spot became a devotee. Like I met my guru. Like they were Prabhupada disciples in the last life. So they just meet him and it's like, there's a devotee that happened to. He just saw Prabhupada. He'd done the He didn't know what he was doing. And Prabhupada said, yes, this is love. Like Prabhupada knew. He's my disciple. This devotee told a story. He had met Prabhupada. He had long hair, beard, and he paid obeisances to Prabhupada. And then he, paid obeisances and he looked up. And Prabhupada put his hand on his head and said, "So when are you joining?" Like he knew him from a past life. And then he gave him the name Bahalasva, and Bahalasva means one who has many horses. And Prabhupada said, "You always have had many horses. You will always have many. You have always had many horses. You have many horses, and you will always have many horses." He said that to him. And then Bahalasva explained, "I grew up with horses. I had horses when I met Prabhupada, and I have horses now." It's like it's like Prabhupada knew. It's amazing, isn't it? So, and then, there you are. Prabhupada says, when are you going to... Okay, I guess I'm joining. That's the power. And so, we need this association because, just like I was saying, we have limitations. This association can push you beyond your limitation. The power of the Guru or the power of Vaishnava Sangha, you see it and you perform on a new level. So, now another thing. Every morning we say, Vanca Kalpa Tarubhyascha, or we should say, Kripa Sindhuvyeva Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo. I offer my obeisances to the Vaishnavas. You want to know why we do this every morning? It's good that we do it, but I'll tell you the history. It's so interesting when you do something and you have no idea where it came from, isn't it? Like there's all these sayings, like that's, you hit the jackpot. It's like, what's the jackpot? Like we know jackpot means you won money or you won a prize, but jackpot, what does that mean? So you go on Google and say, why the... Oh, because I don't even know why, but once upon a time, there was a pot, and, people used to put presents in it, and the presents were called jacks, and, it's something like that, but you don't know why, you just use the expression. So, now, you're all so fortunate, you get to hear the story. So, when I took my second initiation, it was in August of 1970, and up to that time, I believe there was only one sannyasi, maybe two in ISKCON. And then Prabhupada made like 4 sannyasis, which is like a big thing. If you consider maybe 1,000 devotees and 1 or 2 sannyasis, and then you make 4 more, that's like, wow. So I just arrived to the temple, and I think he had just made these men sannyasis. And then other devotees got inspired. This was 1970, and then other devotees got inspired, young men, like, this is great, give your whole life, just surrender everything, and you never get married, this is what I want to do, this, I want to give my life to Prabhupada. So then other men said, Prabhupada, can I take sannyas? So in 1972, he gave more, like Hridayananda Maharaj, Pushpa Krishna Maharaj, Satsvarup Maharaj, I think they took in 1972, there may have been others, and then 1974. So what was happening was, the instruction was, whenever you see a sannyasi, you should pay obeisances. And the Shastra says, if you don't, you have to fast that entire day, due to that offense. So, So we were always paying obeisances to the sannyasis, and I would joke, are you paying obeisances to offer respect, or are you paying obeisances just to make sure you don't have to fast today. Probably a little of both, right? So we don't have to fast. That was a strong impetus to pay obeisances. And so the sannyasis started, not only sannyasis, I think some devotees came to Prabhupada and said, wherever the sannyasis go, up and down the street, everybody stops and pays obeisances, and it's awkward for us. And the sannyasi said it's awkward for us. Wherever we go, everybody drops. Temple. And I go with my ashram. I come out of my ashram. As soon as I come out, everyone's paying obeisances. So Prabhupada said, okay, this is what we're going to do. Every morning, after Mangalarti, we're going to say this prayer, Vanca Kalpa Turubhishcha. And that will validate you for the entire day. So then when you see sannyasis, you already paid your obeisances. To all of them, you don't have to pay again. Did you know that?
No.
Okay, but
That's
wait.
amazing.
No, but there's more. There's more to it. Then this is the thing that's I think probably more important. So that was kind of the global paying obeisances. But in addition to that, what Prabhupada said is when you do this, afterwards you should say, my dear Vaishnava devotees, if I have committed any offenses, please forgive me. Because we don't know if we've committed, and maybe we have, and we weren't aware of it, or maybe we haven't, but someone else was offended by what we did. It happens all the time. No offense attended on your part. You don't even know they were offended, but they were for some reason. So Prabhupada said, you pray, my dear Vaishnava devotees, please forgive me for any offenses I may have committed. Because if we commit offenses, it's harmful for our bhakti. So, and the way to overcome offenses is you pray to the person you offended to please forgive me. But you may not know who you offended, so this is like universal. Clean the slate every morning. So every morning, if you're not in the temple, you should say this prayer, and you should ask, and you should pray, my dear devotees, please forgive me for any offenses I may have committed. And now you're good for the day. You make all the offenses you want during the day, because the next morning, no, that's not good. But just in case you do, and in case you miss paying obeisances to a sannyasi, then you're covered. That was Prabhupada's practical formula. I think it's a very healthy habit, because you never know if you offend a devotee. And the other thing is, then you might say, well, maybe I offended a devotee, but I just offended him in my mind, because the Shastra says that actions committed in the mind are not, there's no reaction. There are reactions. There's no sinful reaction. Okay, I had a dream, I ate a Big Mac. No sinful reaction. I didn't actually kill a cow. There's no sinful reaction, because I didn't do it, right? But to think of an offense, to offend a devotee in your mind, means you did it. That's an offense. It's like you can't separate saying it from thinking it. Once you think it, you did it. Whereas once you think about eating a Big Mac, you didn't eat it. But once you think about making an offense, you just made an offense. That's an offense. Right? Okay. Strictly speaking, you should not even think about breaking principles. But in Kali Yuga it said, okay, you will not get the sinful reaction for doing it. But you'll get contaminated for thinking about it, for sure. Because it might incite the desire to do it. But if you think of an offense, or that devotee, he's this or that, it's better, please forgive me. Sometimes in management, we have to make judgments about devotees, that they do something wrong. Or this devotee is like this or like that, and that's why he does this or that, and you're making judgments. And sometimes you can ask after you make the judgment. No, you're making a judgment in a meeting, and the devotee's not there. You're discussing what this devotee did wrong, And so you make some judgment, but it's nice to, I made this judgment, but it's in the interest of helping the situation. Please forgive me. It's just in your mind, You to that devotee, forgive me for doing this, but, I think what you did is wrong and it's causing a problem. And I think it, has to be stated. But we're always, very cautious, when we do such things. I don't want to make offense, and like that, because offenses can destroy us. So, you have any questions? Yes. You can ask questions also. Yeah. We don't have a huge crowd today.
When we are doing...
Oh, you have a question? Oh, yeah. Say hello, everyone.
Hello.
You have to go? Okay. They're thinking, wait a minute, I thought this is Norway. There's an Indian. Everywhere. Wherever there's money, there's India. Wherever there's money to be made. I was thinking, let me tell you what I was thinking this morning. Before you ask your question. I think it's an interesting thought. I was thinking I should give a TED Talk in India and say, I want to give you the American perspective on India, having practiced your religion for 50 years and having lived in India for about 12 and visited maybe 25 times since 1975. So I was thinking, there's such a big difference between being raised in the West and being raised in India. Because when I was raised, we never thought of money about it because there was so much of it. And I was raised in a fairly nice neighborhood. So I actually didn't know people who didn't have money. So I never thought about, money is something you think about. And when I went to college, it was like, what are you going to do? It wasn't like, what job makes the most money? It was like, everybody has money. It wasn't an issue. We're raised in India, it's an issue. If you don't do well in school, your chances of making a good living, unless you're a business person, are forget it. You're just going to pretty much be like a poor person in the West. And so the Indians, as a result, are very absorbed in thinking about money. And in the West, it was like, you think about it, but it's not such a big issue. Plus, growing up, that money is just, it makes you comfortable, it doesn't make you happy. But everybody's more or less comfortable, so it's less of an issue. But in India, you don't know that because most people are not that comfortable, except the people who have money. And you don't realize, it seems like it buys you happiness, because if you go from poverty to middle class, you are happier. But if you go from middle class up, you're not happier, insignificantly. So when you're raised middle class or upper middle class, you understand that having those things, it's just comfortable. It gives you sense gratification, but it doesn't make you happy. But in India, it's harder to know that, because you see poor people are not happy. And people who are middle class are happier than the poor people. So it looks like money buys you happiness. So the Indians are really focused on money. And the Westerners are not. And Prabhupada said the Westerners are focused on sex. And the Indians are the Indians are obsessed with money and the Westerners are obsessed with sex. Different culture. Interesting, isn't it? Indians, they're from the time they're in the womb, they understand you get married once. In the West, we don't understand that. Married once, there's no samskar for married once. You just get married. If it doesn't work, you do it again. Indian samskar is you get married once. So now the Indians are getting ruined because of all the movies. Because the movies completely destroy that samskar. Just get married once. But still, it's not so bad. But it's getting bad. Right? You'll catch up soon. Then you'll be in double trouble, sex and money. Well, maybe when I don't know if India could ever be as prosperous as the West, but anyway. And then I was thinking, this is what I was doing my TED Talk in my head. Talking about something that's so obvious for us in the West, how the Indians, you give them a Bhagavad Gita, and you go, no, I already have it, I know it all. And then I would say, I read Bhagavad Gita, it totally transformed my life. You say, I know it all. Your life looks like my life before I read Bhagavad Gita. Are you sure you read Bhagavad Gita? Because if you did, it would transform your life. So just showing like, you all have Bhagavad Gita, and your lives are like my life more or less before I read Bhagavad Gita. And so, you know, we have this, and we in the West are thinking, you know, Bhagavad Gita, yoga, meditation is cool, and you're thinking technology and material objects is cool. We want to go to the West and get the technology. So it's like, it's just, I thought it'd be an interesting talk, you know, to give them perspective, you know, of what's going on. So you don't realize how many people put Indian philosophy on a pedestal, and most of you don't even know it that well. Or even if you do, you don't think it's that practical, isn't it? Interesting. I have to think of the rest of the talk, but I thought that would be a nice talk. First, like Bangalore, TEDx Bangalore or something. I can't call it what's wrong with you Indians, because then they wouldn't like me. I have to figure that. It's like, what Indians need to learn from an American Hindu monk or something like that. Okay.
I was thinking how not to do offenses to devotees while doing services in the temple.
How not to offend
devotees while you are doing services in the temple. Do you have any practical?
How not to offend them? What do you mean by offend? Just think badly?
No. Sometimes you are doing some service and you think that you get into mode of passion, and then you might offend devotees. And
in what way? Telling them they're doing it wrong or something? Or inadvertently offend them?
Inadvertently offend them. Or maybe not communicate better what are the, for instance, etiquettes in the kitchen, or what are the etiquettes and then some people...
Practical example? Like, why did you cut this wrong? Something like that.
Or why are you eating in the kitchen?
Oh. That's not an offense. I mean, you could say, Prabhu, you're not supposed to eat in the kitchen. Krishna will thrash you with a thunderbolt if you do. No, you know, just that may be of help to you. My wife's a marriage counselor, and she studied a certain system. And the system she studied is based on research, about 40 years of research of studying couples, to try to understand what makes things work. And I think it's not only for couples, I think it's the same for anybody, any relationship. And what it boiled down to was the basis of every good relationship is respect. Because when there's no respect, then there's criticism. Then there's blame, there's confrontation, condemnation. So respect is this element in a relationship that prevents you from making offenses. Because you respect the person too much to do anything that would upset them. So, Prabhu, maybe you didn't know, but we're not supposed to eat in the kitchen. Would it be okay? I can get you a plate or something. We could go outside. That'd be all right. Yeah. So you know, you don't make them feel bad, and like that's respect, right? So I think that's important, and we're not always good at respecting. Sometimes we get angry, but it's a skill, and I think you just have to meditate on that and start to see when you're in the situations what you're feeling and how you're about to act, and before you say or act anything, just ask myself, can I respectfully express myself here rather than express myself the way I feel, if the way you feel is not respectful. And there's so many things that go into good relationships, but that is the foundation, and from the way I can see it, if you have that, the other problems are solved. Does that help? Or make sense? Or you want more?
Is there also different in this different? I mean, of course, every situation is different, but some topics or some happenings are more urgent. Like last Sunday, someone was wearing just this blue plastic cover over their shoes in the temple room, and immediately when I saw it, I was like, "That's not allowed. You have to go out." So that's like for me, that was like I could have said it softly and like this, but that was really urgent. You don't wear shoes in the temple room. So it was. I mean, isn't there like a difference urgency of?
I think you have to look at the result.
Yeah.
Because if that person never comes back again, I don't think the deities will be pleased. I think they'd rather have a dirty floor, and you can wash the floor where they walk, and you could.
Never come back? You went and never come back?
No, the person came.
Came back.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And we hit the blue covers.
And we hit the blue cover, so everyone had to take their shoes off.
But we can try to say it softly, maybe. Especially if they're new.
Yeah. I was just like.
Shocked.
I was shocked.
Of course, you could, you can say, you can give the argument that, for Krishna service, you can get angry, you can do so many things. So that's there also. But as a general principle, I think if this idea just comes to the forefront of our mind, how to deal respectfully with this person in this situation. Like sometimes someone will be arguing, or questioning, and the speaker will get very, very upset, and you're sitting in the audience and thinking, he shouldn't get upset, the person doesn't know and they're just inquiring, or there's some Mayavadi thing they're saying and he's getting really upset. But the person's just repeating something they read and they're kind of innocent, And in those situations, when people are upset or saying things which are maybe potentially offensive, we have to be respectful. And sometimes, you can be as respectful as say, well, here we teach this. So if that doesn't work for you, that's fine, but we're not really here to, we're just representing Bhagavad Gita from the Bhakti tradition, so we're not really here to, I don't really want to try to defeat you or debate you, especially because you see it's useless and other people have questions. Say, but if you'd like to hear our viewpoint, we're happy to have you here, but if it doesn't work for you, that's fine, you don't have to stay here, and like that, and until you just dissolve it really easily. And the person will feel respected also. I respect your right to believe whatever you want, but this is what we teach here. It's always a very good way to get out of trouble. Just blame it on Bhagavad Gita. I'm just explaining what's in Bhagavad Gita. And these people have come here to learn Bhagavad Gita, but if you want to discuss, more and so forth, another time, that's fine. I understand. You have questions, or maybe you're new or whatever. So you're still respecting, and then you're respecting the people by not allowing the whole conversation to debate with him, and maybe some people are put off by it, and it doesn't really serve the interest of the other people. So I think, bringing respect in is always like the oil, and sometimes we lose respect for people, especially when they say stupid things. It's a really good time. A really easy way to lose respect is when someone's saying something that just doesn't make sense, or is completely wrong, and they can't listen to common sense. So, we have to respect free will. All right, you have your free will. But right now, I'm sitting on the seat, I'm teaching Bhagavad Gita, but it's not your position to teach it. I'm teaching it as I learn from my guru. So, we can have everyone can have their opinion, but so then you disagree, but you respect, give them, and they'll be okay. You don't want to create. What is it?
Like to eat oranges?
Not with quinoa, not in vegetables.
Like in a dressing?
In a dressing? Okay. Sometimes devotees' diets is like a chemistry experiment, and I'm just waiting for the explosion. Dal, mangoes, and tomatoes, and salad, and loose. It's like I'm looking at it going, you're gonna be like a rocket ship. You're just gonna explode, and we're never gonna see you again. What happened to so and so? I don't know. He's just kind of. Oh, there's a hole in the roof. Do you think you went back to Godhead?
Who went?
If you eat enough prasadam, enough variety, you might go back to Godhead very soon. Yeah, yes.
One question related to exactly this. Did Prabhupada translate a section from the Vedas about preparing prasadam properly, the etiquette around it and such and such?
He taught us, but I don't know where specifically it comes from. But it was very simple what he taught. Don't taste it, don't smell it. Wash your hands like 5,000 times. Touch your face, wash your hands. Touch your nose, wash your hands. Wash the spoon before you use it, even if it's clean, wash it again. Rinse the pot out before you use it. You don't know what dust. Just, clean clothes, haven't been in the bathroom. You should be bathed. If you're sweating, go take a bath. Of course, in some place it's so hot you can't avoid it. But those were basic principles. And cover the prasadam cover the bhoga so no one sees it before you offer it. But the idea in the kitchen is that nothing can be offered to Krishna unless we see as for Krishna's enjoyment. Just like if I want to give you something, like I want to buy you a birthday present, so I find this beautiful cashmere sweater, and I bring it home and I think, this sweater is beautiful. His birthday's not for 2 weeks. I'll just wear it for 2 weeks and then I'll give it to him. You wouldn't do that, because just even though I could take care of it and the sweater would look brand new, it's the principle. It's yours, it's not mine. So that's the principle. This is for Krishna. So as soon as I smell it or I think that looks good, I've worn the sweater, so to speak. I've already eaten it in my mind. And now I can't offer it to Krishna because it's already been eaten. That's the idea. Does that make sense? Yeah.
So if you are unable to meditate that this is for Krishna, if you're very hungry or something, but you offer, of course, whatever you eat to Krishna, is it better to offer or not to offer?
Wow, no one ever asked me that question. It's better to offer, but specifically, if you're cooking for the deities, or when that day comes, you cook for the deities, you want to be really careful, and probably don't go in the kitchen hungry.
Yeah.
It's a little different when you're at home. You come back from work, you're starving. It's like, I got to make this. You're meditating on your stomach, but at least before you eat it, you'd offered it to the deities. So it's still teaching the principle. But still you try to see this is for Krishna as best you can. And like everything in Krishna consciousness, it's a practice. So when you start, you're not always so good, but you understand this is how to do it. So I'm practicing it. Okay, I didn't do it perfect this time, but I know how to do it perfectly. Let me try again. Let me get better at it. So that's the idea. You fail a little bit, but
So for example, in the temple when we have a deities,
yes.
Of course, like for example, if I cook in a temple, I will be meditating constantly on the deities. Like I want to please Jagannath.
Yeah.
But at home where I have pictures, why it's different? Like
It's only different in your mind.
So what can I do to?
But where it's oh, you want to change the mood?
Yeah. Seriously.
Bring snacks with you, so you never cook when you're hungry.
Yeah.
Which is
Yeah,
I'm trying to relate to your question from my personal experience, because it's so common when you're cooking you know, you don't cook if you're not hungry. Like, you know, I'm not hungry, so I'm not going to cook. Why cook? You know, you want dinner? No, I ate late lunch. You know, so you want dinner? Yeah, I'm really hungry. Okay, so am I. So now you're both hungry and you're cooking. So for the deities, the difference. This is the answer. You cook for the deities whether you're hungry or not. It has nothing to do with you. Because when you cook for the deities, that's not for you. It's not going to be your dinner. But when you cook your dinner, that's your dinner. So naturally, it's a different consciousness, right? So the deity in your home more evolves around you. They get offerings when you're hungry. If you're not hungry, you just offer them an apple, cut it up, and some dates, and that's all they get today. If you're hungry, they get dal rice, sabji, or whatever you make. So home worship is a little different in that sense, that so it's natural you're going to be hungry when you're offering, and it's a little bit of a mix of, it's kind of like, I'm cooking for myself, but I offer what I cook for myself to the deity because that's what I have to do. Whereas the temple is, I'm not cooking for myself, I'm cooking for Krishna. So that's why. Now, when you're more Krishna conscious, you'll be thinking, no, this is for Krishna. Yeah, but I'm going to eat it for dinner. So it's still, that thought is there, but that becomes the secondary thought. So what can you do? You're cooking because you're hungry. You wouldn't cook if you weren't. But I do it for Krishna. It's like anything that you like to do, you do for Krishna. So it's always a challenge, Again, I like to sing, and I could sing so many things, but I'm just going to sing for Krishna because I like to sing. So you're mixed there between, okay, I want to please Krishna by my singing, but I also like to sing, but I'm trying to do it for his pleasure. But if I didn't like to sing, I probably wouldn't sing. So if I didn't want to eat, I wouldn't cook. If I didn't want to sing, I wouldn't. So it's a little bit like that. And as you become more Krishna conscious, even though you like to sing, more and more you're focused on, this is for him. And if he doesn't like it, I'm not going to do it. That's a more advanced stage. Right? So if you apply that to the kitchen, more and more as I advance my cooking sattvic, I cook things that will be best for my Krishna consciousness and not cooking things maybe that we wouldn't offer to deities. Like that. So there's so many funny practical realities in going from conditioned state to be Krishna conscious, because we're so not Krishna conscious. Because Krishna consciousness for us is so unnatural that we run into all these dilemmas. Whereas if we were raised devotees, we wouldn't even have those questions. We're just like, yeah, this is for Krishna. I'm hungry, whatever, it's for Krishna. So it's the same answer. It's practice, and you just keep practicing and getting better at it. And as you advance, you'll see it'll be easier. You'll think more of the offering. But still, you'll understand, I'm only offering it because I'm hungry. Otherwise, I wouldn't cook. Deities already ate it. We made an offering for breakfast. So one offering a day for your deities, that's minimum. I don't have to make any more. So, yeah.
Sorry, when you have pictures, so you also perceive them as your deities?
Yeah. Yes. Krishna's in the picture. But pictures don't demand a certain level of worship. Like if you have deities, if you want to install Gaur Nitai, then at least you have to offer one offering a day and one arti a day. With a picture, you can, you go to Mayapur, it's not like I have to worry about my picture. But if I have deities, I have to bring them, or someone has to, or I have to meditate in my mind, do the puja in my mind. You can still do that with your picture. But the murti is like supposed to be installed. So you install Gaur Nitai with kirtan. A lot of home deities are not really installed, or, they're just there. So that's a little bit of a contentious issue in my mind, of having all these deities that, because Radha Krishna, the worship of Radha Krishna is a high standard. You have Radha Krishna at home, but, what standard do you do? Changing their clothes once a week, offering one, it's not really the standard. But Gaur Nitai, that can be done. So I generally recommend Gaur Nitai, or Jagannath, but start with Gaur Nitai, work your way up. Then if you have Shalagram or Giriraj, then there's specific standards you have to keep every day. And you can elaborate on those standards, but there's a minimum. And so it depends on you also, whether you're like into deity worship, if that's something that really inspires meditation for you, or you want to keep it simple. I was just staying with a devotee in Lithuania, and he has 1, 2, 3 shalagrams, 2 girirajas, Kornitai, and he loves deity worship. He can do it all day, all night. So it's natural for him to be worshiping shalagram and so forth. It depends on you. It's not right or wrong. You do it or don't do it. It will depend on you. So maybe you love to go out and meet people, and so you'd rather save that hour of deity worship. Go out, just do like 10 minutes and then go on. That's your nature. That's fine. And that could change later. Then you may want to do more. Maybe you're doing more now, you may want to do less. But once you have more tea, then there's a standard. A minimum standard. Well, I'm in the dark now. Now I'm in the light. What else?
Actually, I want to ask you one thing, like it's related to, you said like we should not offend devotees. So I'm very straightforward and truthful right now. Sometimes I feel like we are lacking humanity or appreciation in ISKCON. Like what devotee do, even small thing. We are too much into Krishna that we forget devotee also has Krishna in their heart. Now we should appreciate even small gesture of a devotee. Like if someone doing something for Krishna.
Yeah, I think maybe part of the problem is we have certain expectations. You're a devotee, you should do this. You're first initiated, or you've been a devotee for 10 years. We have certain expectations. And that can cause problems. And then you don't appreciate because you're only looking at what you expect. You don't want to hear something interesting? That, as we know, and Prabhupada has said, when you see somebody, you can see the good or the bad. But my experience is when you see the good, you can't see the bad. And when you see the bad, you can't see the good. You can't see them both. Like if I'm looking at you and I'm just appreciating you, I won't think about any faults you have. And if I'm looking at you and I'm focused on the faults, I won't think about your good qualities. So that's important to understand. Because appreciation, it's a certain consciousness, at least my experience. I can't say 100%, but this is my experience. The consciousness of appreciation, it doesn't leave room for fault finding. And the consciousness of fault finding doesn't leave much room for appreciation. It kind of occupies the space of your consciousness. You have that experience? When you appreciate someone, you tend not to see negative things about them. When you see negative things, you tend not to appreciate. Although, we're taught we should do both. But generally, when you're in one frame of mind, it just kind of occupies your consciousness. So understanding that, it's important to appreciate. And I think and the problem is, it's easy to see what's wrong. It's not as easy or natural to see what's right for most people. See, we always tend to gravitate towards seeing what we don't like in somebody. But again, I think that point of respect solves the problem. If I respect you, I would be very cautious about speaking harshly towards you. And if I respect you, naturally I would be more appreciative. And if we want to create that culture in our temples, we have to work on it. We have to talk about it with the devotees. So, how do we create this culture? I read an article or a book about how a company was creating this culture. And they had a big board on their wall, like this huge, 3 meters high, 5 meters wide. And they encouraged all the workers, whenever you see somebody doing something that you appreciate, or that's appreciable, write it down. I saw so-and-so doing this. I saw so-and-so came in a half hour earlier to work on this project because her co-worker was coming late. I saw so-and-so do the work of someone because so-and-so was sick. You know, create this culture of appreciation. I like that idea. Because it's a very positive energy. So if you have something like that, it naturally, you walk by the wall all the time, you think, okay, who could I appreciate? It just brings it out. So you're creating a situation which kind of forces people to appreciate. Or or you could have a something like, okay, every day I have to appreciate one devotee or 5 devotees. That just becomes like our, something we all agree we should do. Or every Sunday we do, before we start, we do an appreciation circle. Who would like to appreciate it? Just creates a consciousness. What?
That's a great idea.
Yeah. You have to force these things. Then they become natural. Because if you force it, it's like forcing a kid to eat a vegetable, and they look at the vegetable and they say, I don't want to eat it, and you say, well, you know how it tastes? You never taste it. And I go, it doesn't look good. So no, just taste it, it's good. And then they taste it. Oh, this is good. I want to eat it. So it's the same thing. We create a situation, maybe it's a little artificial, kind of forcing people to appreciate. But then once you do it, you want to do it. You like it. There's another exercise. You just, you get everyone together and then you walk around and appreciate. Like you walk around, appreciate him, and he appreciates you. And everyone appreciates one another. It's an amazing experience. Everybody who does it is so blissful. So it gives you, it shows you how the culture. And then if you do it enough, it just becomes natural. You want to do it if you do it enough. And if you do it enough, you don't want to criticize, because criticism will bring you down. I'm appreciating and I'm going high. I don't want to criticize anybody. I'm flying too high. So you can do all these things. You have to, to create that culture, you have to force it a little bit, a little artificial. But it's very easy to do. You might say, but I don't know the person. That's okay. They're spirit soul, part and parcel of Krishna. You can appreciate that, right? Krishna's in their heart. They're a living entity. They come to the temple. Wow, that's great. You could go anywhere today. You're at the temple. I appreciate that. You're wearing tilak. You're not afraid to show that you're a devotee. I appreciate that. You do anything. You're dressed very chastely. Oh, I appreciate that. There's so many women out there that don't. There's so much to appreciate. Right? That's not superficial. Right? Correct. Okay. Anything else? What is this? Oh, that's a person.
Is this your first trip to Norway?
My first official trip. I must have spent 24 hours here this time last year on the way to India. I think it was probably this weekend last year. But we just went to a hotel. Went to the airport and then went to a hotel, and I was with my family. It was cheaper to fly Norwegian to Norway and then get another flight through Doha to Calcutta. So we stopped here. We had to stop, the next flight wasn't until the next day, so we stopped. Walked around in the snow. When we came, it was really cold. After 15 minutes, I had to go back inside. Yeah, first time. Never been to Sweden, Denmark, Finland. Greenland, Iceland. What else? What's east of here? If you go east, what's
East is Sweden.
Sweden? Sweden's east. Oh, and then east of Sweden, Russia.
Finland.
What?
Finland.
East of Finland,
Russia.
Russia.
But if you go north, then Norway and Russia share a border as well.
Oh, really?
And Sweden.
Okay. Anything else? Yes.
While you're in the process of healing, like if you have some health issues, how can you train yourself at home to have a proper mindset and attitude towards your duty regarding spiritual practice?
Okay. If you're having health issues, how do you train your mind to have the proper attitude towards your devotional service? Because you're not able to do as much. You're compromised. Yeah. I want to take this question and put it in a broader way, because this situation, we could say, you could also say the question, what if I have anarthas and I'm healing the anarthas? How do I train myself while I'm in the process of healing? But this question is actually, it's a universal question which applies to any condition we're in. Because you're compromised by your health. But we may be compromised by so many things. Inabilities, material desire, my lack of this or that in Krishna consciousness, just because that's who I am right now. That's the level, or that's who I am as a person. Maybe I don't have the same qualities as this devotee. I'm not so humble, or I'm not so inspired. This is my nature. I'm introverted, or whatever it is. And so, what I have found, the universal panacea for dealing with reality. Yeah, okay, that's the universal panacea for dealing with reality is to accept it as it is. Because as long as we don't accept it as it is, we drive ourselves completely crazy. Because as soon as you say, I can't accept this, just try to understand it. And you say, I can't accept it, you go crazy. And it doesn't change by you not accepting it. And it handicaps you by not accepting it because it puts you in a very negative consciousness. Right? Whereas if you say, okay, I'm in the process of healing, doctor said it's going to take a month or 3 months or 2 years or maybe I'll never be better. As soon as I accept the new handicap and make the adjustments, it's like, well, this is how it is, this is what I have to do. You're fine. So, okay, I would like to be, let's use it in a more direct Krishna conscious way. I would like to be like this, but I'm like this. And I don't like that I'm like this. I would like to be like, this is where I want to be. But I'm not. And so the sooner I accept that this is where I am and this is who I am, and I'm not going to be this way for a while, the better. Because then I at least am not in a negative consciousness. When I'm in the consciousness that I don't want to be this way, it's negative. And it makes it more difficult to get up here because now I'm discouraged or even depressed with my state. So that's the only way we're going to be able to deal with it. Now you might say, but that sounds like you're giving in to the weakness. You're not giving in to the weakness, you're acknowledging it, and you're doing something about it. But while you're doing something about it, you're accepting it. That's it. You're accepting the reality. And so many times when devotees have problems, I just sit with them and I say, let's talk about the reality of, like, what is the actual reality of this? And as we talk about the reality, it's just, they become so much more accepting of what was creating a problem, because they realize they can't do much, or at least not much now, or maybe nothing now. And the other thing that I find is that where you get in those situations that are discouraging, quote unquote, where you get the inspiration is by knowing that in the future it'll be better because I'm doing things that slowly will make it better. So I'm chanting every day. I'm doing my devotional service. It's going to get better. I will get, and I can feel it, and I'm going up inch by inch, or centimeter by centimeter, whatever you use here. So I'm encouraged, knowing that if I continue, although it's not where I want it to be now, I'm going to get there. It's like we're driving to Sweden. Oh my God, 6 hour drive. What, 6 hours? From here, 5.5?
Stockholm, yeah.
Right,
Sweden is closest.
What did sometimes no, she said something funny. It's 6 hours depending on how many kids you have. So you're in the car and it's like 3 hours. You're like, I'm so bored of sitting in the car. You know, you're driving yourself crazy. This is boring. I don't like it. Just want to get there. What's the point? You're going to get there. Just don't worry about it. It's just 3 more hours. So it's like you're chanting Hare Krishna. You're going to get there. You're down here. It's a few more years. You'll get there. So just okay. So you know, you have the kids in the car. Like, I can't stand it. I can't sit in the car. And you stop the car and look at it. There's nothing you can do. It's going to take us 3 hours to get there. That's just the reality. You have to convince them to accept the reality. It's just calm down. You're going to drive yourself crazy. You want to go there? Yeah, we want to go there. It's 3 hours. You know how long 3 hours is? It's 3 o'clock now. It's going to be 6. You finally convince them. They're like, okay, is that all right? You know, they calm down. So we're like those little kids. We have, you know, it's going to be a few more years. It's going to take time. You'll be okay. Like, all right. Then you might ask a question. But what if I'm not going to get better? What if this health issue is? Then you have to adjust to that reality. Don't run away from it. And the same reality, I have to. This is who I am as a devotee. This is just who I am. I have to. This is what these. This is the deck I've been given in this life. I have to play it as best I can. That's all you can do. You can't do anything else. And because you can't do anything else, why waste energy on trying to do something else? Or getting frustrated with it? Because it is what it is. You have that saying? It is what it is. You don't like it, so you say, it is what it is. My wife was supposed to be going with me to China, and they had this whole thing with her visa. And they wouldn't give her a visa because her passport didn't have enough in it. So she went to get a new passport, and they wouldn't give her a visa. And we just found out because the new passport has to be registered with the FRO, you know, the immigration, and it wasn't registered, so they, you know, it's like. And so, you know, she was going there to do these workshops. Now I'm going to do them for her. And after all is said and done, you just chant the mantra, it is what it is. Of course, as devotees, we always think, oh, Krishna has another plan for her. He wants her somewhere else. You know, and it could be. She's, you know, we'll find out. We're waiting to find out what that someone else, somewhere else, what's going to happen somewhere else for her. That because she's not, you know, that's how we see. It is what it is. Okay, what do? Go crazy. Scream and yell, blame, find someone to blame. Stupid Chinese immigration, what's wrong with them? Then we find out, well, it's just procedure. Your passport's not registered in India. So how are you going to get them? We can't give you a visa to go out because you're not going to get back in. Anyway, it is what it is. And the other thing is, I've taught devotees, when you get frustrated, there's another mantra. Something bothers you, just say, that's interesting. Instead of getting upset, that's the mantra. That's interesting. How are things going today, Prabhu? Had a very interesting day. First thing that happened was, I went to the Chinese visa embassy, and something really interesting happened. I went and put the visa in my passport. They said I didn't have enough pages. Obviously, there was a page for the visa, but they probably have some rule. You need 5 blank pages at the end, or something, you know. And then this happened. Very interesting. And then that happened. What an interesting day we had. And if you don't have that mantra with you, you can have some very crazy days, right? So turn your crazy days into interesting days with this mystical, magical mantra. Now that I've given away this mantra, There's a problem. Someone gives me prasadam. How is it? And I say, interesting. And now they know what that means. It's my way of saying I don't like it. Or worse, I'm tolerating it. How's your prasadam? I'm tolerating. Krishna.
It's very interesting.
That's a very interesting persona.
Very interesting class you gave. Was it really interesting? No, I didn't mean it that way. What else? Yes.
And you're unable to have a good rounds because of health.
Mm-hmm.
But how can you trust your mind? Rounds the mind is, I don't know, sometimes what is real.
Yeah.
And that's why I think we need guru so he can.
Yeah. The mind. The mind. We have to train the mind to be to work for us. So whenever your mind is working against you, just think, what would be the best way to think in this situation? In this situation, for example, I think I'm having a hard time chanting rounds because I'm weak, or whatever the problem is, I'm sick. Right? So the way to train the mind is, the mind would say, you just do your best, and because you're weak, the rounds probably won't be as good as they would be if you were healthier, but this is the best you can do now. So just do that. That would be supportive, right? Mm-hmm. And otherwise, what's going to happen to me? What hellish... Am I going to go to that planet where all the bad japa chanters go? You don't have to be around people who are making all these offenses. And is that where I'm going? Or your mind can say, this is temporary until I get better. It's not going to be permanent. So do the best you can. Or even a better, I think maybe even better is you say, you're doing the best you can. You're doing good in this situation. This is the best you can, and Krishna knows. And be satisfied. But then all of a sudden, you'll feel differently. You won't feel negative or bad. You'll feel, oh, okay. And all of a sudden, your chanting will feel better, more inspired, because you'll realize this is as good as I can do in this situation. Does that make sense?
Yes.
But there's a but to it?
No but.
Okay.
How can we...
This happens in India. I give the answer, and it's always, but... What my butt, I just gave you the answer. My butt and the mind, give me go to control, Prabhu. What do you say? Easy, but. All right, whether it's easy or not, you have to do it. Yeah, okay. No
How
buts.
can
No.
we cultivate this soft, how to say, attitude towards ourselves,
Oh, yeah.
like not to be too strict?
Well, it sounds like you had parents that were very strict. Is that true?
Yeah.
That's the problem. It's not your voice, it's their voice you're hearing. So try to understand. It's not you talking to yourself, it's your parents talking to you. You've got to be better, you're not good enough. Your brother or sister did like this, why aren't you doing, all that stuff. Because Krishna doesn't think like that. We have to have some self-compassion, because you want to think to yourself, what would be the optimal way to think to achieve the best result in this situation? And beating myself up would not be the optimal way to think, right? And understanding I'm beating myself up because that's how I was raised and it's deeply conditioned, I have to change that. I have to start changing what I tell myself. Because every time you repeat that, this is bad, not good, letting Krishna down, whatever, you're reinforcing that. And then if you get a guru, it's going to get worse because you're going to be thinking, oh, I'm letting him down. It's not just Krishna, it's him. And he's real live and living color, and I'm going to see him. And it's like, I don't even want to go see him because I'll feel so guilty. And it's just not going to work. You have to see practically how it doesn't work. And practically how Krishna and Guru don't think like your parents. They don't judge you like, as we were saying, The sincerity is what they see. So it's really accepting yourself, working. I may not like the way I am, but still, it is the way I am. And I can be better. But I'm not going to be better if I condemn myself for how I am now. It's not like you have to hate yourself to be better. Right? You actually have to accept yourself to be better. Because if you hate yourself to be better, you won't get better. Because there's too much negativity in your mind. Whereas if you accept it, this is just how I am. Like you have a body, right? You might say, I wish I had this kind of body, this color eyes, this color hair. I wish I had this kind of mind, these capabilities, but you don't. So why focus on all what you wish you have that you don't? Why not just be grateful for what you have? And with this, I can use it to serve Krishna. This is what I have. I can't do this, but I can do this. I'm really good at this, and I like doing it, and I can do it for Krishna. Why not celebrate that rather than what I can't do? Does that make sense? So the problem for people who have the nature to be perfectionists or are raised to be perfectionists is that when you come to Krishna consciousness, perfection is like, it's light years away. It's not even in sight. So you have to redefine what perfection is. If I can just do my service, chant my rounds, that's perfection. Even bad rounds. I have to redefine perfection to be within the context of what is now perfect. For me, not perfect according to the Shastra, but perfect in relation to what I can do. You said, no, this is the best I can do, so that's perfect. Relatively perfect. And it can be more perfect and most perfect. Does that make sense? Yeah. So perfection can have different levels. This is, like what you're doing now is perfect according to your health situation. This is perfect. You can't do any better until you get better. When you get better, you'll do better. And better will never be good enough until we have prema. And we accept that. But we accept what we're doing is good. Prabhupada never said, what you're doing is bad until you get prema. Here's the problem. We have these huge standards. So, if you have a perfectionist mentality, don't become a devotee. That's the worst thing you can do. Because our standards are higher than any religion anywhere. We're like, you have to be pure, 16 rounds, 4 principles. Don't do this, left hand this, right hand this, turn left this way, right this way, spin around 3 times, throw the rice, the water. It's like, if you want to be a perfectionist, don't join this movement, you'll end up in a mental hospital.
Why? Isn't that perfect? Because we love this high standard, so we have something to look forward to?
No, it never works that way. It always works that I'm not good enough. That's the perfectionist frustration, beat themselves up. What you're talking about is a different mentality. It's more of a success mentality, not a perfectionist. I want to be successful. But if I want to be successful and I'm not a perfectionist, then I don't get discouraged on the way before I'm successful. I get encouraged that I'm getting closer to being successful. So it's not like, I'm not perfect yet. No, I'm one step above what I was yesterday. Yes, that's the success mentality.
Can you do a combination of these two?
You don't need the perfectionist mentality if you have the success mentality. And I have some bad information. This world is not perfect. So it's never going to be perfect. And even in deity worship and all these standards Prabhupada gave, he didn't give everything because he said, it's Kali Yuga, you can't do it. You're not going to get a pure flower, you're not going to get pure ghee, you're not going to... So you want to be a perfectionist, you will go completely insane, because, especially in Kali Yuga. And success means to be sincere and try your best. And then you're successful. You're successful right now, today. You don't have to be perfect. A perfectionist mentality. Take it, pull it out of your head, take it to the toilet, drop it in and flush it, and you'll be much better off. Literally, I would suggest doing that. It has psychological benefit to visualize. taking it out, burning it, putting it in an airplane that crashes, cutting it, tearing it up. Just get rid of it because it's really bad.
Now the bad kind. What is part of your nature? Like to be all about the details. Like
Then you have to develop a psychology. No, being about details is good. Being about perfection is a problem.
so this is different.
Yeah. As long as you understand that nothing will be perfect, but you do your best. Do your best to make it as perfect as you can. But no. I read my book and I go, oh my God, there's a grammatical mistake. It had an editor who proofread it. It had another proofreader who does all Lokanath Maharaj's books. And after that, we had another proofreader, and I'm still finding mistakes. And I talked to a devotee about that. I said, I'm going crazy. Every book. This happens in every book. So we want to be detail-oriented in the realization that even the best books have mistakes. Like that, right? Of course we don't want any mistakes, but there will be. Something like that. So being detail-oriented is very good. I like it. I like it because I'm not detail. I don't like to be detail. I'm creative. Details block my creativity. So I like people who are detail-oriented because it's like it balances. And they probably like me because I don't. Where are you going next? I don't know yet. We just this morning decided I'm going to leave on Tuesday to go to China. That's kind of late, right? And you have 3 weeks of programs, and I didn't know where I was going, and I decided I have to go there and just rest for 3 days because my wife's not there. But that's a little bit of my nature. That it's like it doesn't bother me that as of this morning, I didn't know when I was leaving and from where. Probably would be difficult. Yeah, you need to know at least a month in advance or something. That's okay. We're a good team. You forgot the details, and I'm like, don't worry if it doesn't work out. So, but details are good. We need it as long as we know that perfection in this world is not possible. But perfection for you will be your effort, your sincerity, your effort, doing the best in the condition you're in. That's your perfection. If you define perfection that way, then I think you're okay. Then you could probably use that perfection mentality for your, it's based on self-acceptance in this situation. This is the best we can do. So that becomes, this state up here is no longer perfection. This state here is now perfection because this is the best I can do. And then you're fine. Right? You can do that, right? Okay. You had some?
Yeah, I was just wondering, I have a bit of a similar nature to you. I don't plan much, and I don't really like to do it. But let's say I'm with a person that needs that.
And out of respect,
Yes.
Like my wife, I drive her crazy. I need to know. And I don't know because this situation could evolve to that, and this evolves to that. Then if I make this plan, I can't do that. And it's like, and sometimes it's realistic, But when you're married, you have to respect the nature of your partner a little bit. We have a disciple in Hawaii, and she invited us to Hawaii, and so my wife and I never get to spend time together. We don't get to spend a lot of time together as much as we'd like to, and it's not good for marriage. So we took this as an invitation both to preach and just kind of rest and relaxation. And she likes to go see things, places. I don't care. I sit in my room all day and stare at my computer and write books. But of course it's nice to get out and see things. So she's like, where are we going to go today? And I go, well, I'll just find some place. She goes, but there's this place there. I go, yeah, whatever. Yeah. And every day we just went out and I just drove around and found all these amazing places where they were totally unplanned. That's my nature. And she kind of, after a few days, she was like, okay, this is working. No plans, and it's okay. Okay, where are we going? What are we doing? What time are we eating? For me, planning is totally boring because then you know what's going to happen. It's a different nature. And for you, it's like stressful if you don't know it, right? Stressful if you. So, in a relationship like this, you have to respect one another's nature. So, you can see, let's say you're doing something that's like really big, and it really has to be planned. You can't just go, whatever, we'll just play it by ear, you know. So you respect that. But if something, it doesn't matter that much, then you have to respect him. Well, you know, whether we plan or not, it's going to come out the same anyway, and he likes to be spontaneous. And maybe that will be better. So you respect one. In the marriage course that we teach, the studies show that on the average, married couples disagree on about 75%. It's not necessary to agree to have a good marriage. Respect is what's necessary. It's like how you deal, you know, the road's slippery, but how do you drive on it? So, you know, we don't agree on some things, but how do we deal with it? Through respect.
So it's not about compatibility. Like if you're compatible, then you will agree more. Or
Not necessarily. Because that compatibility, you know, compatibility deals with so many things. You know, you have similar, means you're both intellectual, you have similar background, education, family, but that doesn't mean you're going to agree on things. You have, you know, you're detailed, he's not, but everything else is got same education, think the same way, you know, you're both liberal or conservative, you know, all that, you know. You love to talk philosophy, he loves to talk, you know, all these things. But other things, other natures, yeah.
teach that in course? Do you teach these things in course also?
Yeah, that's on the internet also. On my mahatmadas.com. It's called Sacred Union, yeah. But I may not have taught that principle because I just learned that. Like you don't have to agree. The best marriages, most things they didn't agree on. But they managed the disagreement. And that makes so much common sense, right? How do you, you know, no two people are that much alike, especially men and women are already different to start with, you know, in certain ways. But they get to know one another, they learn about men, he learns about women, and they manage that. So when you say something that doesn't make sense to him, he just knows that's how women process it. He doesn't have to agree, but he respects it. You know, I can't do this. And to him it is like, makes absolutely no sense. Why can't you do that? No, I just can't do it. I can't explain it. And he's like, okay. But then he learns to respect that. That's just like, you've got this fear of this thing, and he kind of understands. So there must be some reason she has this fear. Or maybe she doesn't even know why, but it's just there. Okay, I respect it. That's it. I have to respect it. You know, I always joke and I say, it's like, your wife says she's hungry, and you know, you just ate 2 hours ago, and so the husband says, you can't be hungry. Yeah, I am. No, you can't be. We just ate 2 hours ago, but I'm hungry, I need to eat. No. You don't need to eat. You're not hungry. You know, something like that. No, I am hungry. Isn't it? So they're expressing their emotions. No, you can't feel that way. No, I do. But no human being feels like that in this situation. Is it? So then, out of respect, you just like, okay, that's how you're hungry? Okay, we'll stop and get some. I don't have to understand how you could be hungry. You just ate like 4 plates of halva, and now you're hungry. Okay, whatever, you're hungry. So that's how you manage the compatibility. When I was in the hospital, listening to classes and reading Bhagavatam helped me to survive. Okay? That's from Shravaniya. Thank you. So if you're not well, then you can listen more. Have more time to hear and chant. Take advantage. The only problem with that is you'll get so attached to hearing, you'll pray to be sick for the rest of your life. So, you're all hungry or something?
Yeah.
Okay.
Especially the kids, I think.
I thought we were fasting all day. I already broke my fast. I drank water. So I guess, okay. So, all right. And
time for more questions later today
later,
and tomorrow.
Yeah. Okay. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.